Hello everybody, my name is Paige. Welcome to my channel, Paperbacks and Lattes, and today I want to give you an recommendation video. This is Enemies to Lovers romance recommendations. The last video I did was Friends to Lovers, and so I thought it'd be perfect to do Enemies to Lovers romance book recommendations. So these are a few of the books that I have read that have the trope Enemies to Lovers. So let's go ahead and get started. Number one is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. This romance revolves around Josh and Lucy. They both work under like the CEOs of their companies, but the two companies merged together to make one company. And so they are still working underneath like the top lead people of these companies. But it is rumored that, or it's going to be where one of them is like competing for the job. So because they're not going to keep both of them on. And they, from day one, Lucy is such a sunshine character. She is so nice. She has a bubbly personality. And she met Josh and just was all smiles and very friendly. And he is one of the grumpy heroes. And he didn't really know how to take her. And so he came off to her like very cruel, very cold and standoffish. So she took really great offense to that. So they have been enemies since day one. They work their offices together, and their office is, they work in the same office, and so they're with each other all day long, every day. And they have like these these games that they play amongst themselves about, you know, who is the best, competitions between themselves. It's really hilarious. I laughed a lot in this book, but they cannot stand each other until the company decides to have this, you know, day where like all the coworkers can get to know each other. And after they spend this day of activities with their company, Lucy becomes ill, and so he actually takes care of her. So there is a caretaking trope in this, and it is so adorable that he really does have feelings for her, but they got off on just the wrong foot, and so that's what made them hate each other for so long. And I loved seeing their romance blossom. It was such a cute story. I highly recommend it. The second one is Luna and the Lie by Mariana Zapata. Luna is working at this mechanic shop where, you know, they fix cars, and she takes care of her sisters, and she had needed a job. So the owner had taken her in, you know, years ago and taught her how to paint the cars. So that's what she's been doing. She's been working at the car shop painting them. And one of the co-owners, because there's one of the co-owners, his name is Rip, and he is a very standoffish, cold guy as well. He doesn't let anybody become close to him. He's just very, you know, brushes people away. But she is a very bubbly personality herself. She's very sunshine, and she is determined to win him over. So even though he refuses all of the kind things she does for him, like, which she does this for everybody, it just bugs her that Rip is, you know, very cold to her. And so she like fixes his cup of coffee in the mornings and brings him a birthday cake on his birthday, and it's really cute. And there is an age gap in this one because he's a lot older than her. It is a really cute story, even though that he comes to slowly realize that he loves her. And it is amazing to watch this tough guy who is so cold and aloof realize that he loves this girl. And it was such a good story. I highly recommend this one as well. The next one is Neat by Candy Steiner. This is the second book in the Becker Brothers series. So this series revolves around this family of brothers. They are all working, well, pretty much all of them work at this whiskey distillery. It is one that their dad like helped co-found. Logan is working, he works as a, like, the manager of the tours, you know, like as a tour guide. So they take people, they give people tours of this whiskey distillery. And the owner's daughter comes to work at the distillery. She is not loving this at all, because the only reason she is coming to work at the distillery is so that her dad will buy her an art shop, because that's her jam, is art. She's gone to college for art, but her dad told her that she has to work at this the whiskey distillery for her to have her art shop. And so she's just doing this, and she's not putting her heart in it at all. Like, she comes to work inappropriately dressed, and she does everything to bother Logan. And Logan is in charge of teaching Mallory, that's the heroine's name in this book, how to do her job and everything. And she is not taking this seriously at all. And so he pretty much cannot stand her. He despises her, and but she comes to realize that this job means a lot to Logan, and they both come to know that there is more to each other than, you know, she's always known the Becker brothers to have bad reputations, and he knows her as, you know, their enemy, because there is a mystery underlining it through these books where the owners are doing some shady things, and so they have been enemies with this family, and so they are destined to be enemies right from the start. But then they are working together, and they realize that there is more to each other than what they have heard about them, and it is a really cute small town romance. The next one is Vicious by L.J. Shin. I know some people aren't huge fans of L.J. Shin. I read the Vicious series. I don't remember what the actual series is, but the first one is Vicious, a while back, and this one is definitely an enemies to lovers, so I have to include it on this list. Some people might find it hard to love the hero in this book. His name is Victor, but they call him Vicious. He and his friends formed like this little close-knit circle in high school, where they were like the really popular kids in school, and you had to be a part of their circle to even be like invited in to their space. The heroine is Amelia, and her family is living on site at his home, like in a separate apartment, because her mom is the maid, and her dad is like, I think, the handyman. So they live on Vicious parents' property to take care of their house. And so she has just always been kind of beneath him, because she's the maid, she's the help. And even though he has an insane attraction to her, but he is dealing with a lot of things from his past, and she accidentally discovers some of that one day. And so he tells her, instead of just being like a normal person and talking about it, he gives her an ultimatum, says that she has to leave or he's going to ruin her life. So he gives her like 10,000, or he gives her some money and tells her to go away. So she like goes to New York, and she has been there for years. And one day she is waitressing at this restaurant that she's working at, and she goes to her next table to wait on the customer, and it is Vicious. And now they're all grown up. Vicious has his own company, and they immediately recognize each other, and he knows that she is struggling still. She's having to take care of her sister who is sick, and they barely have any money. They're barely getting by, and so he offers her a job at his company, and so she works for him. And this is where he becomes a little redemptive at this point. But he is one of those heroes that has only a soft spot for the heroine. So like Amelia is his world, and he only shows her the good side of himself. Really, everybody else sees this cold, hard shell of a man. So definitely enemies to lovers, and I wouldn't recommend this to people who have a hard time with not a lot of groveling. He does take care of her, and later on is very loving towards her, but in a major part of the book he's very cold and does he's pretty cruel. So the sixth book is Bloodstained Beauty by Ella Fields. It's been a while since I read this one, but it definitely has a lot of twists and turns in it. I don't even want to give you a lot of information about this book because, trust me, you just have to go into it blind, pretty much. Because if I told you what it was about, it's just the reading experience going into this book. If you go into it blind, the reading experience is really great. So there's this girl, and she's a teacher, and she starts this new relationship, and it's going very well, except there is an ongoing investigation about this killer in the area, and that is really all I'm going to tell you. I really want to tell you about it, but I don't want to spoil it. Just know that they are enemies, because I will give you a trope that's in this book: captive situation. So yeah, she is going to be she's a captive in this book at some point. She is, and that is where like the enemies part is in it. But such a good book. I really wish everyone would read this, but it's really hard for me to tell you about it without just spoiling everything. But if you like that kind of trope, it's captive / enemies to lovers, definitely pick this one up. The next one is Bad Habit by Charlie Rose. This book is about Briar and Asher. Asher is Briar's brother's best friend, and she's always had a thing for Asher. But ever since she was little, she's had a huge crush on him. And they finally, after she grows up, they finally act on this attraction, but he is dealing with a lot of things, and he has not had a very good growing up. He's not had a very good life, and he completely shuts her out, and because he blames her for something that happens to him, and even though it wasn't her fault, but he thinks it is, so he shuts her out, and they kind of go to hating each other because he thinks she did this horrible thing. She just knows that he left without any explanation whatsoever after they shared this moment together. And years later, he comes back and they absolutely hate each other until the truth is revealed, and they work at, having this relationship between themselves. But it was good, especially he was friends with her brother, so there is the brother's best friend trope, and of course enemies to lovers. The next one is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. This revolves around Ethan and Olive. Ethan is the best man and Olive is the maid of honor. Their brother and sister are getting married to each other, and so they have hated each other and because Ethan kind of gives funny comments, which Olive does not take very well at all. And so they are at this wedding, and everybody eats the buffet except for them, and everybody becomes sick with food poisoning except for them. So they take the honeymoon, because the honeymoon is non-refundable. Well, the honeymoon is going to go to waste if someone doesn't use it. So the bride and the groom tells their brother and sister, take this honeymoon. And so while they're on their fake honeymoon, because they have to pretend to be married, there is a forced proximity, of course, because they have to share a room. And then they also have to there is fake marriage and fake dating in this, as well as enemies to lovers, because they can't stand each other, but they're sharing this room and they have to go on all these activities on this honeymoon. And but that is ultimately what makes them, you know, start to have an attraction to each other. And it's a really cute story. I highly recommend it. The next one is Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This is about Red and Chloe. This is not too much enemies to lovers, like it doesn't last too long, but they don't really like each other in the beginning. So I had to include it on the list. So Chloe suffers from a chronic illness, and so she just doesn't get out much and do many things as average people do. And one day she's almost hit by a car, and she realizes that if she had died, there wouldn't be much said about her life because she's never really done anything. So she makes this to-do list, like this bucket list of things she wants to do in her life. And one of the things is move out. So she moves out of her parents' home, gets her own place, and there she meets Red, because he's like the handyman of the apartments that she is living at. And he automatically thinks that she is a prissy, stuck-up woman, because he's had bad relationships with people like that in the past, and so he automatically thinks that's who she is. She thinks he's so rude, and they just do not like each other at the start. But the more they hang around each other, they realize that there is more to each other than meets the eye. So this is a really cute story. Red helps Chloe do things off her bucket list, and they're doing these activities together, and that is what ultimately leads them to have a romance. The next one is Top Secret by Serena, Bowen, and Elle Kennedy. This is an MM relationship, and this is about Keaton and Luke. They are both in this fraternity, and they hate each other. So Keaton is this really fun, outgoing guy. He plays sports. He's the typical male jock. He has this girlfriend. His life is going pretty great. And then there's Luke, and he is struggling. He's struggling to make ends meet, and he cannot stand Keaton. He is gay. Well, actually, he's bisexual, I do believe. Well, Keaton's girlfriend requests on her birthday that she wants to have a threesome. So Keaton gets on this app for, you know, meetups, hookups, and he starts talking to this guy on this app to see if, you know, they can do a threesome. So he and this mysterious guy are chatting back and forth, and they start to really like each other. They have a really good vibe. They have a lot of chemistry just through messaging each other, and they agree to meet up and do this threesome. Well, it ends up being Luke, who is the guy. So, of course, when he shows up at the hotel, he is not happy when he finds Keaton and his girlfriend there. So, he thinks that they pranked him, and they straight up just hate each other. Then they start talking more, and even though Keaton is having these, you know, he thinks he's straight, but he is attracted to Luke also. He likes Luke for who he is, and so he's having to figure out his lifestyle, his, you know, who he loves, and this was their romance. It was super cute. It definitely a great enemies to lovers story. Last book I have is From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. This story centers around Jasmine and Lukov. Jasmine is, well, they're both ice skaters, but she has just recently lost her ice skating partner, and her ice skating career has not gone the way she planned it to. She has not been successful like she wanted to, whereas Lukov is like her enemy. They have always competed against each other, and he has had a more successful career than Jasmine. But Jasmine ends up needing a partner, and then so does Lukov. So they begrudgingly agree to become each other's partner, and they have to learn how to skate together. Skating together in a pairs is you have to have a very trusting relationship with that person, because you are putting your life in their hands. And you have to, you have to be in sync with each other to get to choreograph these ice skate dancing and things like that. You've got to be in tune with each other. And so they clash. And so their coach has her work cut out for her to teach them how to skate together. But boy, when you discover Lukov is such a sweetheart, because he rescues all these dogs, and when she starts to actually bring down her guard and get to know him, and they start realizing that maybe they aren't enemies, this book is so great. And I love the ice skating aspect of this book. I love ice skating in general, and I loved reading about it. And I just think Lukov is so adorable. And they're, after, they become great ice skaters. They win all these, medals, because they are such an amazing pair of ice skaters together. I love this book so much. So I highly recommend this one as well. So those are just some of the enemies to lover books that I have read. Let me know which ones are your favorites. Which ones do you recommend? I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.